going to be talking about AI. In fact, we've heard a lot about AI already in this session. But I don't make any apologies for talking about AI because people seem to be really interested about it. It's not just that there are lots of mentions of AI in the talks. Lots of questions have been about AI too. So I've been doing AI for my whole career. It's about 30 years, a bit more than 30 years. For the first 25 years of that, no one really gave a damn. And in the last 5 years, you just hear it on the street, in the pavement, everywhere, on the bus. So there's no escaping it now. So I'll be talking about AI governance, how to control this thing. But as you may have heard, that music was kind of magic music. And I want to start off with a kind of magic theme. And this is Arthur C. Clarke. He made this beautiful observation that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. I love this. This is Arthur C. Clarke's third law from 1973. And it's really true. Think about AI. Just in your own experience, you have these weird little machines. They're like automatons. They're like sort of semi-human. You can talk to them. They answer back. Or you've got a car that can park itself. Or you've got a car that can drive itself. Or you've got robots these days you can see that kind of throw shapes and can dance. You know, it's like, what's going on? What is going on? This is a strange, strange magic we have here. And to kind of introduce this topic of how to control AI, I want to hark back a little bit like Kimball did to storytelling. So this is Johannes Goethe, and he was writing around about the start of the 19th century. And he has this story about the magician's apprentice. So I can't see a show of hands, but anyone know the magician's apprentice? A few of you do. I'll tell the story, right? I'll tell the story. So there's a magician. He lives on top of a mountain in a castle. And he's got an apprentice. And so for those of you who don't know what an apprentice is kind of like a postgrad student. It's like a PhD student, right? I don't know if there's many students of you out there, but a few of you are. Anyway, as you know, like, the PhD students has to do all the dirty work, and this apprentice had to sort of like peel the potatoes and make the soup, and and sweep the courtyard with a broom. And the job that he hated most was going to get water in buckets by going down the path to the river and then bringing it back up to the castle. And he was like to the magician, "Why can't you just use magic to do that?" And the magician was like, "Go and fetch the water." I'm imagining that the magician is a bit like a Goethe-like German person. So anyway, one day when he was doing this water task, the magician happened to need to leave. He had to go into town to run an errand or something, and the apprentice was by himself, and he's like, "Oh, maybe I can just try some magic." And so he looks in the magic book. He's been doing his lessons. He's done his homework. Maybe I can try this. And so he finds, okay, maybe I can take this broom. Is there a spell? Yes, there's a spell to enchant the broom. Okay, so he does his incantation, and broom, groom, be my servant. And the broom sprouts legs and arms. "Master, take these buckets and go down to the river and bring water back and put it in this tub here." "Master." And off it goes. And after a while, it comes back, puts the bucket. At that point, I know how that apprentice felt, because all of my computer science students feel exactly like that when their program starts to run. Yes! Yes! So the broom goes off down, gets some more water, comes back, puts it in. "Oh, this is wonderful." The apprentice is sitting back, drinking lemonade or whatever. And but the problem is, as you will know if you know this story, that when the tub is full, the broom doesn't stop. On it goes, back down, back, gets some more. And then again, it's, "Oh my God, what do I do? What do I do? I can't control this magic that I've started. The magic's great, but I can't control it. Oh, what do I do? I need an axe. I get an axe." And so I chop the broom in half. At that point, both halves of the broom sprout arms and legs, and off they go. And now there's twice as much water as before. Oh my God. And so then he gets another axe and chops each bit. And now we've got a situation which looks like this. This is a picture from the time. We have these brooms. We have a kind of Wellington weather situation developing. So I hope you get the analogy, right? It's not a very subtle one. The title of my talk is "The Next Advance for AI Must Be in Governance, Not Technology." We have very advanced AI, and governance is going to involve lots of creativity as well. But what we need is ways to control this technology and make it do what we want with it. And what I want to do is to reflect on us down here. We're in a situation, this is us, by the way, and I don't just mean New Zealand, I mean the world. We have this very powerful technology, a magic technology. We don't quite know how to control it. And what do we need to do? We need to step over a threshold, and my threshold here is for New Zealand, I suppose, but also for the wider world. How do we control this technology? And I want to start by reflecting on what other things we need to control. And there's lots of them, but think about it from the perspective of New Zealand. Let's have a look down here. We're down here. There's New Zealand. AI is a global issue these days. It's an international issue. And one of the problems with AI for New Zealand is that a lot of our technology, a lot of the technology that's used day to day is imported, right? We don't make it ourselves. The main technologies in AI that are influencing our world come from America, come from Silicon Valley, way up there. So what we need to do is to think about how to address that situation. And it's problematic because as the economy becomes more and more dependent on AI, that means that increasing amounts of our national budget are flowing offshore. But it's not just that, it's worse than that. Because think about where it's coming from in the US. It's coming from maybe 5 companies, 5 very big companies. You can count it on one hand, I would think. And also, it's not just that bad, because those companies, these are international companies. We've never had companies this powerful. Or maybe the Dutch East India Company or the British East India Company was sufficiently powerful. And it's a colonial process, as we heard in the very first talk from Peter Lucas. We're being newly colonized. And it's not just the Maori community and the indigenous communities, but it's actually all countries. And it's actually slightly worse than that, because this technology that's coming our way, it's very useful, it's got incredible benefits, but it's also slightly addictive. And I'm not sure, again, I'm looking to see, do you feel that you're becoming dependent in any way? Because there's certainly that conversation happening in New Zealand that, and elsewhere in the world, that students, for instance, or people in schools or people in workplaces are starting to become dependent on this stuff. And that's one of the addictions. But there's another addiction which is to do with social media. And I want to mention that as well, because we've heard quite a lot about social media in other talks today as well. And there, social media is basically running on AI. So AI is the system that decides what you see in your news feed, and everyone sees their own thing, right? And AI is the thing that's telling you, what you're going to get, because it's giving you more of the same stuff you'll click on, basically. And so that the algorithms that deliver items into your social media feeds are set up to keep your bum on the seat in front of the social media platform, because that's what makes the money for them. So that's designed to be addictive. So all of those things are problematic. So the question is now, what do we do? And I want to suggest 2 things that we can do. One of them is that we need to try and govern the big multinational companies that are providing us with these technologies, both in social media and in generative AI, like language models. But the other thing is that we need to do some AI for ourselves, and we've already heard many good examples of that. But I'll start off with the broader question of how to govern the companies that are currently delivering AI to us. And for that, look back at the map of the world. We have to look to somewhere else in the world. New Zealand is too small to boss around those big companies just unilaterally. But there are other countries in the world and other groups of countries, and I'm thinking in particular of the EU, that are taking quite a lot of action in regulating AI. And one of the things that I do these days is work quite closely with policymakers, especially in the EU, because that's where most of this work is happening. And I want to mention two bits of law that I've been involved in through a group I'm in called the Global Partnership on AI. All of this work with international AI regulation has to take place in international groupings. So I'll mention 2 bits of legislation. Other people have talked about law as well, and here again, advocacy is needed. I'm a lobbyist, basically, suggesting certain things should happen. The EU has an AI Act, and I was quite involved in one particular piece of that through the group I was involved in, one particular article out of hundreds of articles, and I'll talk a little bit about what that is. So it's an article to do with AI-generated content, and I'm not sure if any of you have had this problem. When you see something, you don't know if it's AI generated or not. I think this is a very common problem. It could be a picture, it could be some text. We don't know what it is. And again, I want to point to a situation from storytelling. This is Snow White's apple, right? So Snow White's apple, is it a real apple or is it magically doctored? We just don't know, okay? And it's the same problem. So for AI content, if you want to have, you might want to have a detector that could reliably tell you, yes, this is AI-generated content, this is not, and this is somewhere in between. That's what you want. But the existing detection systems are no good, or at least they don't work reliably enough. We can't really use them. So the law that we were involved in was a law that requires companies to deliver, the companies that build the generators have to deliver detection tools as well. And that's a hard task for them, and we have to work out exactly what requirements we're going to put on them. But basically, the only people who can build reliable detectors are the companies that produce the generators, because you have to instrument your generator through watermarks or through provenance authenticity. There's all sorts of methods. I won't bore you with them, but it's only the companies who can do this work. So you need to put legal obligations on those companies so that we can know what's a real apple and what's a generated apple. I'm not saying that AI content is not good. It can be fantastic, as we've heard in several of the sessions today. But we do need to know, as consumers of content, what's what's human-generated and what's AI-generated. It's just part of what we need to know. So there's one other one. So that's the AI Act. There's plenty of other interesting things in that. But there's also another one called the Digital Services Act, and that one is primarily focused on social media regulation. And on that one, what we need to know is how social media platforms' algorithms influence social effects. So I'm thinking of one of the talks we heard before from Melissa about distinctions between food habits for women and men. A lot of those habits and similar kind of like new sort of forms of identity come about because of the influence of social media algorithms that push certain sorts of content at certain sorts of people. And those often come from very small cognitive biases that are amplified by the algorithms. But we don't know the details because those companies won't tell us about that. But there's this article called 40.4, which there are 440 articles. There's an article called 40.4, which allows independent, external, vetted researchers suitably qualified to go inside the platforms. And the metaphor here is the castle, and the castle walls are the impregnable boundaries of the companies, because we can't get in. And what that means is that we can't know what's happening to information as it flows around the world. You know, prior to social media, you could just look and see what was in the newspapers and what was on the TV and what was on the radio, because that was the way information flowed around the world, or what was in books. But now, every person gets their own individual information, and it's private to them because it just arrives in their private feed. And so the only people who really know what's going on are the platforms. And Article 40.4 will allow some access, and I'm involved. I helped to create a group called the Social Data Science Alliance, which is full of people who could have access and would be able to study this new area of science, which is to do with proper fine-grained analyses of social impacts of technology, using the provisions in the Digital Services Act. So so those are two things that are happening in the EU. So let's come back to little old New Zealand. I do want to, because part of the things that we have to do are literally just to do with us here, where we can participate in these international regulatory discussions, especially around the EU, but we need to do things ourselves. And this is something that Peter Lucas was talking about at the start. We want to have our own AI systems that run here in our country, that behave as we want them to, and that are regulated by us, and that keep our data safe. And on that, I think that we really just need to embrace this idea of sovereignty and security, because if we do it ourselves, then we also know that we've got it. So that's an extremely important part of this. And to do that, it's a very interesting and creative process. There are plenty of algorithms now that we can use with open weights that we can just take on board. So it's easier to build, for instance, a language model of your own now than it used to be. But what we want to do, and I think the interesting and creative process, is to work out how to align a language model to the values of New Zealanders. Because a language model, when it comes out when it's been trained, has to go through a process which is kind of like, it's called value alignment or moral alignment. It's like teaching a child not to say this, or to say this rather than say this. So literally you have a prompt, and this is called, it's called value alignment. You have a prompt, and the alignment process involves lots and lots of decisions where you say, don't say this, say that instead in response to that. It's literally like saying to a child, when this happens, you should do this. So at the moment, value alignment is largely done in Silicon Valley up there. But if we make our own, then we have these extremely interesting opportunities for participatory democracy, where those questions can be put to the public, and a broader conversation can be had about exactly what sort of AI we want, where we would like to use it, where we would not like to use it. At that point, it feels like we're taking ownership and taking kind of agency, taking responsibility, and gaining control. So I want to finish with the idea that what we really need is a broad conversation amongst the whole country about how to use this technology for ourselves and how to make our own one so we can have a slice of the pie. Thank you.